I'm so sorry. I just started recording. Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, so it was converted into a hotel and a ghost haunted tour, and I really wanted to go bad. And Richard said that one of us would have to hit a home run for a dinner like that. And I'm really bad at baseball. Really bad. I don't know why I played so long. Other than Richard had some big league dreams. But for me, if I don't know if you know the Field of Dreams movie, but if Shoeless Joe Jackson had appeared in the outfield and handed me a bat that he brought with him down from heaven, I would have not hit that ball in my Little League game. But Laurel, who is actually athletically gifted in spite of our parents, genes, genetic wise, I don't know, but she summoned a home run from baseball purgatory. She was fourth on the batting lineup, which in baseball is a really big deal. And Richard made good on his promise, and we ate at the Queen Mary, and I think she picked it. I don't know if she wanted to go, but she knew I wanted to go, so she picked it. And then, yeah, so I don't really remember the food, but I definitely remember the ghost tour. My dad told me growing up that education is the only way a person can get a better life in America, and I still really believe that. It's definitely been a contributing factor. So I graduated from college, and I think I took about like a year off of school after I graduated with my bachelor's. And then I immediately went back. I went back at nights while working at full time for years. I've been slowly getting like a post-bac degree, and but yeah, so I think that's definitely left an impact. I still ski. I'm not bad. I have yet to break anything. So those two things considered in the ski community is considered an achievement. I do backpack, though not as much as I like to with my school commitments, but definitely still explore California. And my dad really pushed me to study Spanish in high school, which I did so unwillingly. I did a year-long exchange in college, though, in Spain, and I still use Spanish to sustain my job. I will die fluent, I hope. So my dad and me definitely had more disagreements than agreements on pretty much everything, but we did agree that baseball is objectively the best game ever, that The Field of Dreams is one of the best movies ever, and that Toby Keith was the best overall. My dad deeply impacted my life and the things I love doing. All the things I love doing now, I first did with him and Laurel. I know he contributed to all of our lives who are on this call, and I want to thank you for being here to commemorate his life. And then you can't have a funeral for Richard without doing some baseball quotes. Richard's favorite quote is "There's no crying in baseball" from A League of Our Own. But my favorite baseball quote is "Baseball breaks your heart. It is designed to break your heart. The game begins in the spring, when everything else begins again, and it blossoms in the summer, filling the afternoon and evenings, and then as soon as the chill rain comes down, it stops and leaves you to face the fall all alone. You can count on it, rely on it to buffer the passage of time and to keep the memory of sunshine and high skies alive. And just when the days are all twilight, when you need it most, it stops." But on a happier baseball quote, Yogi Berra once said, "Always go to other people's funerals. Otherwise, they won't come to yours." And so with that, I would love to thank you for being here and to turn the floor over to my sister. See, okay. So Laurel, I know Laurel made a slideshow with some of the pictures we had growing up. Laurel, you should be able to share on your screen.
Okay. Can you share your screen? I wasn't ready.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. Sorry. Should be able to share. Okay. All right, now we're going to get an infinite. Should be this one. Oops. Sorry, guys. I have it up. Wrong tab. Oh, no. Okay, I'll pull it up. Give me a second. Um, there we go. I found it. Okay. Just want to drag it. My goodness. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now you guys should be able to see.
Can you do view slideshow?
Yeah. No, I have it. I just try to. Oh, won't let me. Oh, here's. Oh, you know what? It's because this is annoying. There you go. All right. Sorry about that, Laurel. There you go.
Can you go to the first slide?
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry everyone. I do have a cold right now if I sound nasally, but thanks for sharing, Kathleen, and helping set up this celebration of life. We have a lot of crossover, I think, for like Catalina and skiing that we wanted to share, and some of the pictures I was able to find, I think can help exemplify the memories you were talking about too. So yeah, it was definitely the Catalina camping trip and camping trips in general with Richard that were a good part of our childhood. And you can see us here with the different camping gear and our Big Bear ski trip and just walking around Catalina. And yeah, one of the memories I have from Catalina was that we would play a lot of Uno while we were camping. And one of the things Richard would always do was to keep the wild card as his like last Uno card, so that he would win no matter what. And I think that I just had remembered that um, fact about him and how you always had to play, keeping that in mind. And I think it kind of just showed his wittiness, his strategy, and how he was kind of trying to teach us those things that you have to prepare for things in life, and you have to know the ending, and you can strategize. And that was just something I think exemplified him for me. And yeah, so all of our activities that we were able to do was definitely because, like with the skis, and even like that he had surfboards for us, it was because he was a big garage sailor. If anyone knows Richard, he loved garage sailing, and we would do that probably every weekend with him. That he would get them through the newspapers, all the different garage sales, or just driving around looking for the signs, and that was something that he loved to do. I definitely think I'm a sentimental person, and probably get that from both sides of the family. But I know, yeah, definitely love a little trinket. And my dad definitely loved his garage sailing and getting a good deal, as Kathleen said. But that was something I remember vividly of how we would get different sports equipment and everything growing up. If you could go to the next slide, Kay. Okay, here's some of our fishing and like beaching pictures. So we would go beach camping at Doheny Beach here in California, and yeah, our dad would love to just sit on the beach, read his newspaper. He loved his newspaper, and just kind of nap and chill. And there was definitely his idea of a good beach vacation. And then yeah, this was probably on the little boat that he had in the lakes that Kathleen talked about. But yeah, we would try to fish for hours without much avail. But yeah, I liked this picture of him. It was his it's not a Walkman, but his like headset. He would love the his talk radio shows on that, and he would love to go walking around. I know he would walk around El Dorado. That was my high school, but before even I went there, he would go to the track there and walk around, just walk around Placentia. He's a huge walker, listening to his talk radio or reading his newspapers at home. So he definitely liked to stay up on all the politics and news events going on in the world. Okay, next. Okay. Okay, here, yeah, just kind of to touch on how he was involved in our schools. Like Kathleen said, he advocated for us to learn Spanish and join band. And then he was very happy with her joining the ROTC at Troy. And the picture on the left was, I think, on the first day of schools, our mom's parents, our grandparents would walk us to. But really, every day elementary school, Richard would walk us to school, and I remember holding his hand as we would do the short, like 5-10 minute walk to Brookhaven. And that was just something I was thinking about, was definitely his hands, like as a kid, holding his hand and how expressive he was. He always loved to enunciate things with his hands, and I feel like that gave him like a big flair of his personality, who he was. And I think I really idealized him when I was little, and I think I spoke more with my hands because I was kind of mimicking him and wanting to be like him. And I'm the one with the horrible red plaid pants in that one, in that picture. But I think, yeah, I was really trying to explore my style, and Richard really enjoyed that. He liked that I was trying to be like punk, and he thought it was cool, and he always was very welcoming for that exploration and style, and I appreciate that, definitely. Next, Kay. Okay, yeah, this is the Adopt a Cat campaign. If you're all familiar with Richard's political career, he ran. I forget what it is. One of the Placentia mayor positions or something, a little high up in the level, but he was running. And he was very dedicated to the cause. He and I actually would go out at like 3 in the morning and put up, I think I was in fifth grade at this point, but we would put up like the fair signs. We would zip tie them around the town really late. And I remember getting like in and out after. I would be falling asleep in the truck, but we would get in and out afterwards, and it would be crowded. I mean, maybe it wasn't even as late as I thought it was, but I remember thinking it was in the middle of the night, and it was this cool thing that we got to go out and put up the fair signs. And then in the Placentia parade, he rented this Mustang, and it said Richard Ferris's Adopt a Cat, because you weren't allowed to like campaign in the parade, but he wanted to say Adopt a Cat as a way to still get his like name out there. So that was me and my friend in the back, and then I'm holding my cat at the time, Troubles, and then Kathleen is in the front. So I definitely think that uh, Richard like cared a lot about cats. And I kind of feel like that was because of me. Like I loved cats growing up, and that was our neighbor's cat, and our neighbor moved away, and she gave me the cat because we really connected. And I think like from that, I had a connection through my dad too, because he really cared about the cats, and he knew I did too. And then, yeah, on the right side, that's us with our mom and her parents. And I just wanted to say, like, that he was a big part of that family with us, with all of the holidays. And my grandparents loved Disneyland, and that's something that we were able to take on with our family. That we'd have annual passes when we were little, and so we would sometimes go with our mom. And then I remember one time that just after a random, school day, Richard took us to Disneyland. So it was something that we were able to really enjoy as a family. And then, okay, next, Kay. And then, yeah, that's my end. Sorry, I feel like I was talking a lot, but those were just some of my notable memories of my childhood and Richard. And I think that he was a really funny guy that it made an impression on me, I think, as a person, definitely, to try to be more funny. Um, and to bring joy to people around you. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to hearing some more stories about different eras in his life too.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot. Does anybody want to go first, or I guess third?
Well, I've got several stories to share if you want to go way back. You able to hear me?
Thank
All
you,
right.
Andy.
You able to hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we hear
I
you.
also don't see a picture of myself. I assume I'm there. So
Yeah, you're here, Andy. We hear you.
okay. Uh, I'll try to make it short, but boy, there's a lot of Richard stories. Um, one of my first recollections was fifth grade, and we were running a mock election, and I was playing Richard Nixon, and he was playing George Wallace, and that kind of summed up our political views for our entire life. But he was he definitely was not afraid to speak his views, and we had a lot of fun doing that. He would he would come over to our house. I was a farm kid, and he was a city kid, and city kid meaning what Eau Claire was. I mean, there was 500 of us, I think, in the whole town. But he would come over and argue politics with my father. And he was the only high school friend that I had that I think my father truly appreciated. And it was because Richard talked to him like he was just the other person in the room. And I know my dad got a kick out of that. I remember coming home one time shortly after being married and trying to figure out whose wrecked car was hidden behind my garage. I've not still never really heard what the story was about that, but I know it was Richard's car because he did come and claim it at one time. He'd stop over at different times through our career and his through our careers. His job, he traveled all over the country, and he would stop by. He came by once when he was working in Maine. It's the middle of summer. We were in sweet corn harvest, and he said, "Have a big pot on the stove." And he showed up with four of the biggest lobsters I ever saw in my life, and we had a great meal. He got along with our kids too. Um, just he took me into the first bar I ever went in. And I was 16 years old, and it was Maxine's in St. Joe. And it was when the drinking age had just turned 18, and nobody had any clue what anybody was supposed to look like. And that was an interesting time in our lives. Um, some of the other things that went on, when he was in the Army or Air Force, I'm sorry, I would get these long descriptive letters of what he was doing. Most of the time, it was in Alaska, and always signed them. Didn't say your friend Richard or hey Rich, whatever. It was always signed Richard Fair, USAF, and I think that was a formative part of his life too. It gave him a little structure. We kept touch. He would always stop by. He would call. Sometimes we'd argue about things. Sometimes we'd just laugh about things. The last time I saw him was a couple of years ago when my wife and I stopped in to see him in Florida, and we went to, can't remember the place, but it was a little Greek restaurant that we had this great food and laughed and talked and ended up going out on a dolphin watching boat with him. And through the whole thing, it was always evident, and he always talked about how much you two girls meant to him. Uh, the baseball stories I heard and the camping stories I heard, and he was a special person. He truly was. And you know as well as I do what that means. Richard had a lot of sides to him, and I appreciated them all. I was just so happy that I was sent the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, so much for sharing. That was so kind. I really appreciate it. I can't believe you guys literally do a bar when you're 16.
Yeah, well, well, you always thought you
I
knew more than you
said.
should.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did see Dory. You unmuted. Did you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. I appreciate Andy's story about the George Wallace school class election, because I even remember that probably that year, Richard's school picture, he was wearing a George Wallace pin in it. It said something like, if I were 21, I'd vote for George Wallace. Now, Richard's whole George Wallace thing was because that's who our dad was supporting and spending time down at their little headquarters, campaign thing. So whether Rich actually knew all of George Wallace's opinions on things, I don't know, because I certainly did not at that time. But I was 5 years younger than Richard, so I wasn't as up on any of that stuff. But I guess the thing I would say with Richard was, being 5 years younger, I had a lot less contact with him growing up than I did Gary. But the things I remember the most was playing games with Richard in the house and playing Monopoly and things like that. Hang on, I'm going to get rid of this noise here. I've got Mary Lee on the phone because she forgot to get the link. But Richard was ruthless when it came to Monopoly. Even though I was much younger than him, he did me no favors when we would play. In one respect, I guess it was training for me for learning about the business world. So, that was all good in a sense. But yeah, he did me no favors. Richard was out to win when it came to playing, games. I also remember, because Richard liked to play chess, he taught me how to play chess. Not necessarily that he wanted to teach me, but because he wanted somebody to play against. But I did learn how to play chess from Richard. I do remember that. And I remember playing backgammon with him later on. The other thing I remember with Richard was, as we were adults in college, we would go to some football games. And there was a series where Michigan State, for the first time ever, played Central Michigan. I think it was maybe a 3-game series. And CMU beat Michigan State the first 2 games they played. And I can still remember Richard laughing in such joy, knowing that he beat, his school beat a Big Ten conference school. He loved it. I know one of the games we went together. Then there was also the time when we drove out for the Rose Bowl with a couple of my cousins, and we went to that game with Richard. So Richard definitely liked, watching some of the college sports. He would even call me on occasion, because he would even be watching Michigan State if they were on a national broadcast. So, I do remember that. I remember Richard's love for baseball. And you're right. He did have dreams of making you guys good enough to get a college scholarship. And he really felt like, going through the baseball route was the way. And I will say there are a lot of girls, because I was a softball player, who that would be the route they would take to become very good at softball. But I also remember some of the stories about, Richard, really pushing for you guys to play ball and take piano lessons, and certainly education, Richard really valued. And I know he wanted the best for you girls when it came to that. He did. He had a great love for you guys. There's no question in my mind about it. I know things, went a little haywire and everything later on in life, but I don't think he ever stopped loving you. So, like Andy indicated, I reiterate the same thing. I know that he had a lot of love for you guys. And maybe, based on the way our father parented, there were probably a lot of bad habits that Richard picked up from our father. And that's unfortunate. As far as any other stories with Richard, like I said, we had a big age gap. I was never even in the same school building with Richard growing up. We were always in different buildings. So, thinking back on things, I don't have a ton of stories to tell, really. I just don't. We had a bigger age gap there, but Richard gave me one piece of advice, and Richard was always full of advice. But the one piece that I still remember to this day was, I remember when I graduated from college, and I had some student loans, and I was kind of bragging to Richard, like, yeah, and guess what? I don't even have to pay these back for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. And Richard was like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to saddle yourself with that loan, have that on your back for that long. You want to just pay that off and be done with it. And I took his advice. I paid it off in 2 years. It wasn't a crazy huge amount. And, it was great advice, because then I never even had to think about that college loan again. It was done. It was history. And I appreciated that advice. I did. And I'm sure Richard gave me a lot of other advice through the years, because he always had a lot of advice. He had a lot of opinions about things. So in that way, Richard was a good big brother. I had two, good big brothers, and I appreciated that. And I once told Amanda, yeah, I kind of wish that my first child would have been a boy, because I wanted my children to have a big brother, because I appreciated that in life. So in that same moment, Amanda got all upset, thinking she wasn't wanted because she was a girl. Clearly I told her that at too young of an age. But yeah, I wish, maybe he had came back to Berrien County more often in Michigan. So I didn't really see him a lot once he moved away. But, I always hoped for the best for him. And yeah, rest in peace, Richard. So that's really about all I've got.
Thank you, Joy. That was very, very sweet. And I just on an aside, if Marilee, if you just want to text me Marilee's email, I can add her to the group.
I can go next.
Oh, Joy.
Okay.
Oh, I'll contact Mary.
Am I good to go next?
I'll go with that. Thank you, Amanda. It's your baby.
Yeah.
I missed his introduction earlier. He's so cute.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, I am Amanda, Dory's daughter, so Richard's niece, and Laurel and Kathleen's cousin. So living in Michigan, where Richard was from, and Laurel and Kathleen and Uncle Richard and Aunt Diane being out in California, we didn't really get to see each other as much as we would have liked to. But I do have some memories. I believe it was the first time he brought Laurel and Kathleen out that I can remember, anyways. I was probably in kindergarten ish. And then I believe Laurel's like a year older than me, and Kathleen, I think you're like 3 years older than me. And I remember going to Michigan Adventures with you guys. So Michigan Adventures is like a smaller scale Cedar Park, uh, very smaller scale Disneyland. I mean, there's just a couple roller coasters, and then they have a water park side. So I remember going to that, going there with you guys, and I think we all piled into the back of your parents' rental car. Actually, maybe that was the second time you guys came, and I'm just getting the memories mixed up. But I remember Laurel, Kathleen, my sister Brianna, and myself all sitting in the back seat where there was really only room for 3 people, uh, but kind of breaking the rule there. Um, and then the last time I saw Uncle Richard was probably, I think it was like 2016 when he came out to Michigan, I think for a class reunion. Um, and then so I got to hear, you know, some of his childhood stories and stories of my mom and him growing up. And I learned, you know, that he definitely had a sense of humor, uh, and was, you know, pretty competitive. I hope my Uncle Gary shares some of his stories because it sounds like they were always, you know, getting into things and trying to one up each other as brothers. Um, and then the other part, you know, I remember telling all my friends, you know, oh, I have cousins out in California, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I remember, you know, always getting a birthday card from your family and a Christmas present at Christmas time from your family. And I remember one year, I think it was a piggy bank, a ceramic piggy bank with Amanda on the side of it that I think he had gotten from a garage sale. And then I remember like a Cinderella flashlight. I think my sister and I each got one. And I remember getting a Disney princess like winter hat one year as well. And so that was always something to look forward to. And then as far as our grandma, she always had um, your softball like card or picture up on her refrigerator with a magnet. She was always super proud of that. And I was a picky eater growing up. Um, and I remember, I think she had probably been out to California to visit your family, and she came back and she wouldn't let me hear the end of how I think both of you loved broccoli. And so she was trying to get me to eat broccoli based on you guys eating broccoli so willingly. So it didn't really work, but um, you know, for not getting to see you guys and have the relationship that, you know, I hope, you know, we can kind of, you know, form now as adults, as cousins. You know, there were definitely still some memories there. And the last time you guys came out, I think it was your 13th birthday, Kathleen. And we had the get together over at Liz and Gary's, and I remember you playing with all of us younger cousins and playing Barbies with us, and just running around being kids with each other, and just wishing that you guys didn't have to go back to California. But yeah, so those are, I guess I have more memories of Laurel and Kathleen, but that's who I was spending most of the time with, not the adults.
Oh, we had so much fun. It was, yeah, yeah. I remember, and I was always grateful. You guys always took me around to the, you know, the places Richard grew up on, and I saw Eau Claire and your guys, the old house, and Dory did a whole tour. It was really
Yeah,
cool
and
hanging
you
out
coming
Gary.
out for my wedding, that was so special, and getting to kind of trespass at Tabor Farms
Oh
and
yeah.
seeing where they worked during the summer, that resort. That was really fun.
Yeah, I remember Richard talking about Taper Farms growing up and having that job, and yeah, it was interesting to see like all of his like old spots. So, oh, sorry, it's loud outside. I'm just gonna send the link to Marilee, Dory. All right, Marilee got the link, so hopefully she's able to join. Oh, such a cute baby. He's asleep. He's out. How's Ellie doing?
Oh, she's doing great. She's glad she doesn't, I don't know, you see her. She's somewhere back there,
Oh
sitting
yeah,
with her
she's playing
dad.
video games
They're
with her
both they're
dad.
both on their own computer. She's watching videos
Yeah.
and dad gets to play his video games.
Oh, very cute. Good. Yeah, quality time with dad. Can't beat it. Oh my goodness. That's so cute. They're getting so big. I know it's been a minute. I think when you got married 2022, 2023.
Yeah, yep, 2022 in July. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm definitely glad I went. I need to save up to go again.
I know
But yeah.
I still need to get out to California. I think my sister and brother-in-law are actually out in California right now, uh, visiting
Oh,
some friends. And I think they're going to like the redwoods and going to see a bunch of stuff.
oh, very cool, very cool. Well, they're gonna get some crazy weather this weekend. All right. Marilee, I saw you joined.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
The
okay.
Amanda just finished. But we're just going in kind of a round robin, sharing our memories of Richard. So yeah, Amanda went, Dory went, Andy went. So no
Yeah.
pressure. You're
Well,
not put on the spot. We're just going whoever wants to go.
okay. The last thing that I remember from him was when Dory, I, and Kara went to the Rose Bowl, and he went with us, and we met his friend Tom. But at the game, I just remember one thing, that the game was Michigan State and Stanford, and of course we're diehard Michigan State fans. He just went because, I think we got him a ticket, so he came with us. But we were losing at first, and he just looked at us and he goes, "Okay, girls, you ready to go now?" It was for like the first 15 minutes of the game, first quarter. And I just thought that was really funny. But we had a good visit with him, and a good dinner, and enjoyed, getting to know him a little bit, because I've always been in Utah, although I'm in Tennessee now. And just, it's hard to see family sometimes. You just can't get to see everybody. And when they're all over the country, it's really hard to visit with people. But I do remember him being very funny and just enjoyable whenever I was around him, but it just wasn't that much. But it was fun anyway. And it's sad that he's gone now and at a young age. So that's about all I've got right now. And I'm sorry for your
Oh yeah,
loss.
sorry, Mary. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine.
I did. You did say you went with Tom. I don't know, Tom. Would you want to go next? Oh, Tom, if you're talking, here, if you're, let's see. Tom's
Okay,
muted.
there we go. All right. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, that's Merrill, and it's the only time I met Merrill and Dory was when they went to the game and everything. They had 4 tickets, and Richard was looking forward to going to the game with them. I don't know if he'd been to the Rose Bowl game before or not, but just to give you a little background. I'm going through everybody that's on here, and so that's the only time I met Lori and Liz F1. I don't know who you are. I apologize.
Oh, that's Liz and Gary. That's Richard's brother and
Oh,
Richard's
Gary. Okay,
brother's
Gary.
wife.
Listen, Gary. Okay, I got you. Okay, yeah, hi, Gary. I've never met you either. And Andy, did we have dinner one time together?
I'm not sure, Tom. I heard your name in a lot of conversations with Richards, and I'm not sure with Richard, and I'm not sure we ever met or not.
Okay, I know I had dinner with one of his friends sometime. Came into town. I thought it might have been you. He had two really good friends from your town back there in Eau Claire.
Yep. The other
And
one might have been Mike Amabile.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
If it wasn't, it must have been Mike. But
Yep.
I remember okay. So, just give you a little background. You know, I met Richard at BAI and everything, and went to a number of ball games with him. And Bob Novy's on the phone with us now. He was our boss. And so what happened is that he ran for election out here. He decided to run for assemblyman, and so I used to go out and help him post up signs and stuff like that when he was running for election. And we became good friends over the years. And I went back to see him in 21. As soon as I got my COVID shot, my booster, I said I got to go on the road. So I did. I went for about a 5 to 6 week trip back to Florida and New York before I came back home, and saw Richard, stayed with him there. Of course, he didn't have hardly any furniture in his house there. You know, Richard, he just, you know, he lives really tight and everything. So I bought a chair for him and for me really, so he could use it afterwards, a lazy boy chair. And I brought my blow up bed. So he had a bed. He liked it so much. So he ended up getting one too. Finally, you know, he did that. So, but anyway, we went fishing, stuff like that in Florida. Had a good time together. We were there for a week. I've got a picture here. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll put it on my phone, and I'll put my phone right up to the camera. Just trying to adjust it so I have the whole picture on here.
Sorry, Tom, your camera is not on. We just see your name.
Okay, how do you turn the camera?
There should be like in the left-hand corner, there should be like a video, and you could click to turn it on.
In the left-hand corner of your screen? Okay.
Yeah.
I see how I can mute. I see how I can mute my name on my picture.
Yeah, and it should be right next to right next to the mute button, right to the right. It should be to turn on the video. Otherwise, you can text me the picture and I can share it on my screen as well.
Okay, I have a mute button there, but then there's 3 dots, and it says hide self view, start video. Should I see start video? Should I do that?
Yeah, and then we should be able to see.
Now, can you see me? Oh, there you go. Well, I had something for a second. See if I can do that again. Hey, Andy, I see your picture. Now, see, rename.
This is what happens when you put a bunch of old people.
Yeah, that's
with
right.
All this technology.
This is my second Zoom in my life. You know. So.
Well, you've done twice as many as I have then.
Okay. Oh, there I have a picture here, but it sure is not coming in very well. It's flicking in and out. Is it flicking in and out on you guys?
Yeah, it's pretty static.
Well,
if you text me the picture, Tom, I can share it.
Okay. Well, anyway, so what happened was I came out, visited him for a while. We went fishing. We went out the first night. We went out. The picture I wanted to show you when he was at the Hard Rock Cafe. That's probably one of the last pictures I have of him. Hey, I just give you a funny story. I had a knee operation about 2015, and he took. I had to go to Vegas for something, And so we went to Vegas together in my car, and I had a wheelchair. He'd wheeled me all around. And I won some money one night, and I made sure I put my tag in my billfold next to my valet pass, so I wouldn't forget to collect my money. So sure enough, I forgot, and we were out there waiting for the valet guy, and I go, "Hey, Richard, can you do me a favor? Can you run in there and cash this in?" Now, Richard had never been to a casino, doing money. So sure he does. He takes that slip in, and he finds the place to go, and he puts it in the machine. But before he put it in the machine, he looked at the machine, and there was something there. So he took it out, put it in his pocket, and then he put my ticket in, got my $60 or whatever it was, and brought it back out, and he gave it to me. And then he pulled something out of his pocket, and it was like about $58. So somebody had left the machine, didn't pick it up. And I thought that was really, it's funny on his part. Richard is probably, in regards to guys that had the funniest sense of humor, probably most anybody I know. He always had something to say funny. It was a lot of times it was really off the wall. Okay. All right. But I tell you, he had a really good sense of humor, and he always tried to make everybody laugh. And so, let's see. But so, anyway, the last time he came out was I called him out to take care of some stuff for his house. So he came into town, and he paid down his stuff on the house, regards to some of the taxes and stuff. And he was just supposed to go back to Florida for about a couple weeks or so and do some patching on his roof, but he ended up staying there for 2 or 3 years without coming back now. And I would drive by his house because I go play poker up the street and take pictures of his lawn and stuff like this. I said, "Okay, the weeds are this tall. It's time to come home," and things like that. So, but I really miss the guy. He's always happy, and so he always had something funny to say, and he'd go through life, and we, like you said, garage sailing there. I guess you guys can't see my picture, but he went garage sailing. We did that until I filled up a storage unit. So I had to quit doing garage sailing with them. I said, no more garage sales. That's it. Even though I did go one time with them in Florida back there. I made 2 trips back there to see his house and everything that he bought for his father. And he was very generous that way. And that's, I've got a lot of stories too, like you, Andy, about him. And I just have to say, I know with Kathleen, and we went to Fullerton one time. Remember, I brought my boys to Fullerton, and we went to watch the baseball game there. It was Fullerton Titans, and they were playing somebody. And then the other one was I think we even went to an Angel game together, right, Kathleen? Do you remember that? Okay. All right. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway.
That was when they were the winningest team.
Yeah. I don't know if we went to that Fullerton game. It was full. We went to Angel Stadium in preseason, and the Angels were playing Cal State Fullerton in preseason game, okay, before this thing landed. And who was pitching for, I don't know if you remember this, for the Titans on the mound there was Kevin Costner. I guess he donated a bunch of money to the school. Do you remember that, Kathleen? Okay.
I don't know if I remember Kevin Costner, but Kevin Costner went to Cal State Fullerton, so we're biased for him because my mom also went to Cal State Fullerton.
Oh yeah.
So that's what her and Kevin Costner have in common.
Yeah. And also one of the girls that we worked with, I forgot. I'm bad with names. But anyway, one of the girls that Bob Novi and I and Richard worked with, she went to Cal State. Well, she went to Villa Park High School, and she graduated the same class as Kevin Costner. Okay, so Kevin, excuse me, Richard and her Richard was a trainer, and this other girl, she was a trainer too. And they sent them off all to these different places, not together or anything, but that's what their job was. They're a business automation. So, but that's how I met him. We played baseball. We had a baseball team that Bob Novi had put together, and we played baseball there, and everything worked out good. And I really miss him. I tell you, I've been worried about him. When he had, I don't know, he had a stroke. He doesn't call me for a long time, so I know there's something wrong with his phone. So he had a stroke and never called me during that time. Then I found out afterwards he had one. About that, he says he didn't have a charger on his phone. He couldn't call us. That's the only thing I can tell you. I was he was really good sometimes calling you, but then he had a pay phone that he didn't want to spend the money on the minutes. I kept trying to put him on my plan. He wouldn't go that way, but anyway. So I was I know there after the stroke, the VA did not do a good job for him, and they took him off at his doorstep. And he couldn't hardly walk into the house. He didn't even give him a walker to walk in with. And so I know he was upset about that. So I talked to him 2 days, like I talked to you before, Kathleen, 2 days or so before he passed away. And anyway, I'm just saying, I'm so glad that I was able to meet you, Kathleen, and Laurel, and your mom and everything. And he was such a nice guy. And that's about it. I can tell you long stories like Andy can. That's it for me.
Well, if Andy wants to go again, thank you, Tom. That was so sweet. And out of curiosity, you guys were on a baseball team with BAI. Do you know what position, or remember what position Richard played, or did you guys all just like switch around?
We always switched around. Maybe Bob Novi would know better because Bob put together the team. But let's see, Bob's there. Bob, do you have any comments on what position Richard played? I can't hear you, Bob. Now you're on mute on my end.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now I can. Huh?
Okay. Yeah, I think Richard played outfield, but so Tom and I and Roy, who's on the call here, all three of us worked at Business Automation with Richard. And yeah, for quite a few years, and we always did a lot together. We were all friends, went out to lunch a lot together, and to watch football games. We had a customer for about a year at Business Automation. We had a customer that Richard was in charge of, and he just sat in his office and kept writing up more and more changes that they wanted to the system they were working on. They weren't up and running yet, but they were preparing. And Richard just kept writing more and more and more changes. We liked that because it made us a lot of money. But this went on for too long for them, and finally they said that's enough, you know. And but that was after we billed him $1 million in changes. So he made a lot of money for the company. And yeah, we go out to lunch, and Richard always had lots of stories, and he was kind of the life of the party, the presence in the room, and he was very loud. And we one time we went to a football game, a Monday night football game at a local Danny K's, a sports bar, and him and I were talking, and Richard talks so loud, and has lots to say, and we're talking and talking, and the kind of instead of watching the game very much, then the guys in front of us turned around and they said, "Will you shut the f up?" And that didn't go well with Richard, and started talking, let's take it outside. And so we both got banned from the bar permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always a lot of fun.
I lost my picture on here. I got you guys. I have you, Bob and Andy, and I can go down and scroll down, but I don't. I think I pushed the wrong button for my name to be on there. I don't know what I did wrong.
Oh, we see you now.
Oh, you see me? Oh, good.
Still flickering, but yeah, we see you.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, I know. I heard that story from you, Bob, and that is so funny about typical Richard, at the time. Yeah. And the person I was thinking of that also had the same type of job as was Carrie Dancer. She was the girl that went to Villa Park High School with Kevin Costner. He graduated her class, and most of the people that were on the ball team at Villa Park, they didn't even know Kevin Costner, and he also played for Cal State Fullerton for a while too. So, but anyway, Kathleen, I think you guys were at that ball game that we went to at preseason.
We went to a
Yeah,
couple
I
ball
remember
games.
your son, Tom.
Say again.
Oh, I just said I remember your boys, Tom. But I think Bob said something.
Yeah, I think we went to 2 or 3 ball games at Business Automation with Richard and you guys.
Were either one of you guys
Yeah, I think
aware? Were either one of you guys aware of this dream that he had of moving to the Nevada desert outside Vegas and living in a rusty RV?
Oh yeah,
I heard that several times.
now that was this joke. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was this joke all the time that I'm just going to go out there because we went to Vegas a couple of times. He used to like taking this bus for $8. It was an 8-hour ride to go 4 hours, 8-hour ride to get to Vegas when he could drive in 4. And so he'd always say, "Well, this is my plan in life. You got to have a rusted out trailer with the air conditioned trailer and park it in Las Vegas right out there in the desert." You're right, Andy. He'd always joke about that. He had a lot of jokes that way.
Yeah, I heard about that one for a number of years.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. So, but but he really liked to fish a lot. He and you see the pictures that Laurel showed on there. It shows the pictures of the family. How much he liked the outdoors and being with them. And skiing, because that's one time, Kathleen, you went up the Wrightwood skiing with them, and Bob Novi and I were there. And I don't know if Bob brought his daughter or not at that time. I didn't bring the boys, but we all went up there skiing one time together at Wrightwood. So anyway, that's I can talk for hours on this thing here. If anybody else has anything funny to say.
Boy, do you have anything from our BAI days?
Oh, BAI days. Well, let's see. Well, actually, he didn't go out to lunch with us too often. He'd always, you and I used to go out quite a bit with, some other people there, and he did go off occasionally. Um, but usually, like I spent a lot of hours with him up there putting up signs and everything for his election. Um, it was sort of funny. We'd be out there as soon as it got dark. We go out there and put signs up till midnight. And he was running for two things. He ran for assemblyman, and he got a good percentage of the vote for never running before. And then the second time he ran for supervisor of Orange County. And so he always said, I put my mouth, I mean, I do, I do what I say with my mouth. I stand behind it. And I'm going to go out there and demonstrate that, I think I could do a better job than these guys can. And so that was his thing about it. He says, I put my money where my mouth is. He's out there to spend that expense, which, was a little crazy, but he did it. And that's what he wanted to show that's why he puts his money where his mouth is. And so that's what I remember. Let's see. Yeah, that was, when we were, I was going to show you one of the pictures I have. It says, but since my camera's on here now, you might be able to see this. I'll put it that way and see if I can put this up to the camera. I can't see this, but can you guys see this picture? Is it in focus? That's Richard at the Hard Rock Casino. He went there for me. He doesn't gamble. He went there for me. But the other thing is, funny thing, when I came to visit him the first time, he picked me up. He couldn't get a renter. He didn't plan ahead and get a rental car ahead of time because this was in COVID, at the end of COVID in 21, and all the rental car companies got rid of all their they got rid of all their thing. We went to a ball game down there in we see the Toronto Blue Jays play the Yankees when we were there, and just trying to have a picture here of the first place we went to. Anybody guess where the first place we went to when I got off the airplane? He picked me up. Gee whiz, I'm trying to find that right here. I'm trying to think, that was 22. Oh, I'm a year off in my picture. Excuse me. There we go.
Was it the Las Vegas sign?
There we go, right there. So when I got off the airplane, here's a picture of Richard. We're driving home. He picked me up in the evening in the dark, and here's a picture of Richard right now. Where'd we go? We didn't. We just walked inside. We didn't get anything to eat at all. But he wanted to show me that is the very first Hooters in the United States. We were driving by it. It was on the side of the freeway with the truck. So that was really funny. So he was a funny guy and had a lot of funny things to say. Roy, you got anything to say?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just remember, our office at the time was in the city of Orange, and it's not very far from Anaheim Stadium where the Angels played. And there was a year which I think Kathleen mentioned was that Angels were really good. Mike Scioscia, manager, and so I remember Richard during the playoffs. They were selling tickets for the playoffs, and he I guess went early in the morning or wherever. And because back in the day, no apps where you have to do everything online, you had to actually physically stand in line. And but I don't know what happened was after he got the tickets, he was so disgruntled with the method or the process of getting the tickets. All right. And, you had to get a wristband, stand in line. I don't know what the exact story was, and he didn't want to go anymore. And so he was willing to sell me the tickets at face value and everything. And I go, sure, I'll get him. I'll buy him. And actually, as a result, it was like the 7th game of a divisional series against the Twins. Okay. So, no, the seats were way up in the high upper deck. and I brought my son. And ever since that game, it was a great game. A lot of home runs. Angels won. I think that was the year they won the World Series. And as a result, because of Richard, now that I think about it, my son is an Angels fan. True and true. He loves baseball, loves the Angels. Even after Ohtani left, still an Angel fan. And I guess that's the most memorable story I have of him, of Richard.
I was there before him. I don't know if you know
Uh-huh.
Angel Stadium, but
Uh-huh.
I got there at gates opened at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got there at 5:45, and they already had opened the gates. And I pulled up right there right outside third base, and the line was forming. I should have just walked right in to the line instead of when these guys were walking by. But I walked all the way around the stadium to the hat on the other side. I parked by the hat on the other side, walked all the way around the stadium before I got a spot. Well, I ended up getting tickets, lucky because I traded. I talked to one of the people who I was with, and we took off the wristbands, and they gave me their wristband because mine was the end of the end type thing. But if you look at that thing it went from one hat all the way around the stadium, and then made a U-turn, went all the way back around the stadium, and then zigzagged through the parking lot. And that's where Richard was, way out there in the middle of the parking lot at that time. So he had to wait in line for it to go around the stadium 2 times. And I only had to wait for it to go around 1 time for me to get my tickets. So I took my boys to that World Series that year. And so, but I remember him. He was real upset about that. And
Richard, if I could speak just for a second, Richard was not a conformist, as you guys know as well as I do. And Richard didn't like anybody telling him what to do. I remember riding with him going up north in Michigan for a canoe trip, a high school canoe trip. And he was driving this 63 Wildcat. That's just the most gorgeous car. I'm still looking for one. And anyway, we had a lot of stuff packed in the car, and Richard didn't like to drive the speed limit either. And we were going down state highway, and I was, I was again paranoid little farm boy. And Richard's 55. Richard is 55, and so he slowed down and he was bitching and moaning about it. And we got into a little town north of us named Covert, and the cop pulled us over. And luckily, it happened to be the father of another kid that was going on this canoe trip, but he didn't know Richard. Richard didn't know him. And he says, "You're kind of weaving all over the road back there. What was going on?" Well, what was going on is he was driving slower than he wanted to and just wasn't paying attention. And his explanation to the cop was, "Well, I got a lot of shit in the back of the car. Maybe that's got something to do with it." And I stepped up and I don't remember the kid's name, but I said, "Mr. Such and Such." I said, "Bob's your son's going on this canoe trip, and oh yeah, you guys from Eau Claire." And so I got us out of a ticket maybe at that point, but that was my relationship with Richard. He scared me all the time, but I think that was part of the allure that again, I was a little farm kid that didn't get to do anything, and Richard was kind of the dark side. We had a lot of I had a lot of fun, and I'm glad he put up with me.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. When last time I went back there to see him, he came back here. The last time I saw him, last time he was here. But we went to a ball game in Florida, see the game there, and we're going through the line, and we brought these bags with our mitts and everything, and Richard had picked up a good bag at a expensive bag at a garage sale. And the guy said, "We can't come in with any bags," right? So he was upset. So we put all the stuff on the table, and Richard is still griping to him about that, about that we couldn't take the bag. We had a couple balls, stuff like this. So, they were trying to take in the stadium. And what happened was all the guy actually did is the guy behind the thing there, he just grabs the bag, he dumps it on the table right there and throws the bag over the way. Richard stands up and say, please, 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 salt, and you think the police would come and get this guy? No, no, no. Nobody came. So we make it through the gate. Okay. I pick up all this stuff there. Richard, come on. And I would make it through the gate. We got all this stuff in our hands and everything. And we go through the detector. We made it through that. And then we're walking by a policeman. And he says, oh, I want to have a complaint against this guy up front here that assaulted us and took our bag and blah, blah, blah. And I said, Richard, stop it. Let's just go to our seats. Now he said, no, he stood there and argued with this cop about doing something. So, okay, Richard, I got our seats here. I'll meet you at our seats. I go up there and meet the seats. What happens? 10 minutes later? Well, Tom calls me on the cell phone. I got thrown out of the stadium. I go, Richard, okay. I said, all right, I'll be here for 45 minutes and I'll come out and I'll find you somewhere. I says, okay, I'll be out here somewhere. He calls me about 15 minutes later and says, oh, I found a veteran post across the street and they got beer in there. I'll meet you in the bar. And sure enough, I watched the game for it was, preseason, so it wasn't anything big deal to me. I watched it for about an hour and 15 minutes, went across the street to the bar, and then Richard's in there. He's got 3 friends already, talking. He goes, hey, Tom, here's this guy. He's from Wisconsin. This is weird, really weird. Okay. This guy was in the Army. He's got a little Army shirt on. I could probably show you a picture here of him. And he graduated in Oakville, Wisconsin, where my dad is, a town of 600 people. He graduated from high school there, and he went to college at Ripon College in Wisconsin, where my dad went. Okay. And he was a good 20 years younger than Richard and I, maybe even more than that. But yeah, it was just so funny. That sort of made the trip for me because my cousins and everything know his family there in Wisconsin. It was just sort of funny. Another funny story. Anybody else have anything? Let's see. I can't remember your name. His brother. Yeah.
Gary. Yeah. Gary's his brother.
Yeah. All right. Now I've never met you. So at least I get a chance to see you now.
So I was going to ask Andy, do you remember high school graduation when Richard wrecked the Mustang the night before?
Yeah, I remember him showing up to graduation. And I think he had 86 stitches in his face, as I remember. But by God, he was at graduation. Can't hear you, Dory.
Dory, are you talking?
There you go.
There.
There you go.
Anyway, I was just going to say most people would not have shown up at graduation having gone through that. And that was just crazy.
I remember the accident very well. I am the oldest in this whole group, and I'm Gary and Rich's and Dory's cousin. And we got a call in the morning, and we were told that Rich had been in a very serious auto accident. And I think there were 2 other people in the car. Someone else may be able to confirm that. The last name of one of the boys was King. Does anyone remember that?
It was Brett King and
Yes.
Freddie Leeds were the other two in the
Okay.
car.
And I went to the emergency room to be with my Aunt Helen. And we were able to get back into the emergency, and his face was totally stitched up. As a matter of fact, there was still glass all over in his hair. And my thought was, he will never make it to graduation. And I didn't even make an effort to go after that for the ceremony. And then lo and behold, he was able to make it to the graduation. But at that time, I had two very, very young children. And I can't remember what year Rich graduated. Help me on that, Gary, or someone. What year
19,
was it?
1976. I'm in
It
the
was
process.
76.
I'm in the process of putting our 50th reunion together right now.
Okay, and I had three little children. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what am I going to go through when my children start driving? Well, um, as it happened, Rich made it to the graduation and he healed, and all was well following the accident, except for Gary didn't have a car. And I kind of felt really bad for Gary that he didn't have a car after that, that his brother had wrecked his beautiful. Wasn't it a Mustang? Someone can help me
Someone
with
can
that.
help me with that.
Yes,
can see it.
it was
Yeah,
a
it was a 65 fastback Mustang.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
beautiful
it's a
car.
beautiful car.
Hmm.
So that was
So that was
a memory that really stood out in my mind of something that had happened with Rich. And everyone was calling him Richard. Well, we had called him Richie from the time he was born. And so he was always Richie to me. And I was one of his probably very few babysitters because I think I'm 11 years older than Rich. And so I've known him from the time he was born, but we lost track over the years. I was raising a family. He got out of school, he went in the military, and so unfortunately we lost track of each other. But it's good to see some of his friends and hear some of the nice stories that you're telling about him now. That's it for me.
I do think we went to Michigan and it was kind of funny. He took us to like I think it was a restaurant. I don't really remember who was with us. Maybe it was Gary or Dory, I don't know. We went to a restaurant and the waitress was someone he had gone to school with. And then she said and then I guess somebody also was in the restaurant he had gone to school with. And, and they said, oh, you're the guy who crashed his car right before graduation. We heard about you. And he just got so like, he's like, oh my gosh, they will always talk about this. Why do they talk about this? And I had never even heard of this. He had never even told us, which I guess makes sense. And, but I thought that was so funny. He was just like, oh, they can't let this go. And I don't know. But I just thought that was kind of funny. And I don't know, yeah. Still talking about it years and years later.
years
I
later.
guess the car was in pieces, right?
Houston, right?
Yeah, he actually made the front page of the area paper with that
Mhm.
crash.
Talk if you want.
Talk if you want.
Well, let's save the best for last
best
here.
for last here.
Being Richard's younger brother, most of the time was no picnic. Yeah, he was one of a kind, that's for sure. But one story I'm going to share with you. When we were about 8 years old, or I was 8 years old, Richard was a couple of years older than me. We had gone out to Yellowstone, And my folks went out there in a car. It was a two-door car, so the front doors were a little longer. Richard was in the back, and so was I. Dory wasn't with us. But we had stopped, and my dad was feeding the bears marshmallows. Well, the bear's coming towards the car. My mom had her window down. She thought it was a good idea to put the window up. So she started cranking her window up. Richard, meanwhile, had his head stuck out the window. So she's cranking, and all of a sudden, boom, she can't go anymore. And the window's down. Here comes the bear. And I could see all this happening. Well, I was kind of thinking,
Oh.
this is my chance to watch my brother get eaten by a bear. And I thought it was funny. So I didn't say a word. I didn't say, well, hey, mom, Richard's got his head stuck. I just sit there and watch this, I was gonna see how this played out. Well, she finally figured out that Richard's head was stuck in there, and my mom at that time, she kind of freaked out because the bear was getting close. And she starts yelling at him, and they finally got things straightened out. The window went up, and Richard's head didn't, he didn't get eaten by the bear. But I remember I thought, I was going to be the only one left, but it didn't work out that way. So that's one of my, I guess, better memories of Richard.
Thank you, Gary. I remember you telling me that when it came out for Amanda's wedding, and didn't the bear crush the mirror or something?
That was a different bear, but
Oh my
yeah,
God.
my dad, he pulled a camper and he put these mirrors that hung on the door, and that big old bear put that big old paw on it, and you could just see it bend it. And my dad starts yelling at my mom, excuse my language, get that goddamn bear off of that mirror. I mean, my mom didn't know what to do. She's, what the hell you want me? That's just the way my folks talked. What the hell you want me to do? Anyways, the bear bent the mirror, and my mom got yelled at. Everything was good in the Fair family.
Oh, this is bringing back memories, Gary.
Oh, I got some doozies.
I know you do. I was in the middle of a lot of those.
What was the hot dog? Was it?
Yeah, my wife heard the story about the hot dog. Dory knows it very well. At some point, I wound up being a lot bigger and stronger than Richard. Of course, he didn't like that idea because he always picked on me. He had his way with me. But we had these they were fake hot dogs. They looked like a real hot dog, and we would sit there and throw these damn rubber hot dogs at each other. Well, I guess I was getting under his skin this day, and he said, "Oh, he was gonna destroy him, cut him up, or something." Well, he did. Well, that just rubbed me wrong. That he cut these hot dogs. They were just something we had laying around the house for many years, for a long time, anyways. And I got a hold of Richard and I threw him across the living room, and his eyes got just huge. First time I'd ever really took advantage of him. And he jumped in his car and he left. And me and Dory thought it was pretty funny.
So what happened to you?
Oh, I don't know. When is it? When was it?
It's going on.
It's not there.
All right. Well, does anybody else have stories to share, or we can also just let you guys get back to your Saturday? Oh, Gary, you're muted.
A friend here, Mike Schemenar, and his wife. Mike knew
hi.
Richard really well.
Hello. Well, being Gary's best friend all them years, Richard was like the older asshole, and we were always going to be smarter than him anyway. So, but when Gary joined the military, Richard lived with me for probably a year or so. I can't remember. maybe longer. He worked at all phases. He traveled all the time, but when he came back, he just needed a place to stay. So I had plenty of room, and we used to go skiing all the time. And he always had these company cars, and they were Ford Escort station wagons, and instead of using my truck to go skiing, we'd always use them Escorts. And I smoked, and Richard hated that. So we're on our way to Kalamazoo or wherever we were going skiing that Saturday. And he grabbed the ashtray out of the car and threw it out the window. He said, "This is a non-smoking car now." But that's about, he'd come home and he took Mike Amabile and I were all single at the time, and we'd always go bar hopping. But that's about it. We kind of got out of touch when he finally moved away. He came back for his wedding, and then he came back in 16 last time I seen him. But that's about all I got.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming. It's very kind. Well, it's unless anybody else has a exciting story, I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'll let you get back to your Saturday. So, but thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming together and to commemorate Richard.
Kathleen, I'd just like to say thank you for sending this invite. It came through Dory, and she and I have been corresponding a little through Facebook. But I want to reiterate again that your father really cared for you guys and spoke so often of you guys. And I know there's been good times and bad times, and I think we've all experienced them with Richard. But he's going to hold a special part of my memory. And if you guys could let me know how you guys are doing once in a while, I'd love to keep up the legacy. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, Andy. That's so kind of you to say. And yeah, I do. I think I got your information through Dory. So thank you, Dory, for getting everybody on the Michigan side organized. That was very much appreciated. And then I don't know if anybody wants to particularly know, but Richard did tell Tom that his wishes were to be, placed in the Bay Pine Cemetery in Florida, which is where his dad William is buried. So he has been cremated. It's the VA's it's a cremation only cemetery, and then he will be placed by the VA in a plot. So it's and I think the plot will be near his dad. They don't let you choose where specifically, but I think we were just lucky. So I just want everybody to know with that update. So that was what he had told Tom he wanted. So thank you, Tom, for passing that along to me.
Yeah. Is that at the St. Petersburg National Cemetery?
Yes, the Bay Pines National Cemetery. I think it's near St. Petersburg, but I think it's out. I think Bay Pines is its own outside of St. Petersburg, but it's where William is buried. So my grandfather.
Oh, okay. All right. One last thing about cars and Richard is I remember they were driving back from school. I think it was, up there at Central Michigan. I guess that was called Pleasanton. And for some reason, he was driving, I think, a Nova, something like that. And he didn't have too far to drive to go home, but one of his buddies in the car said, "No problem. I can drive. I can drive us the rest of the way home." It wasn't like more than 10 miles or whatever. But his friend got on the on-ramp and bam, he went right sideways right into the guardrail. And he wrecked his car. and he was so mad at his friend for doing so. So
that was
anyway,
the car. That was the car that ended up behind my garage. I came home and I saw this car there, and
yeah.
never did hear the story. So now at least I know where that Nova came
Yeah, that
from.
was a Nova, and I think it was what, a 72 Nova or something, right?
More I did somewhere
Yeah.
in there, but
Because he,
I
you know,
think there was
he
a
and
lot more. I think there was a lot more story behind that incident that none of us ever heard about.
yeah, I think so too. But he and Gary, I guess, used to always put together cars together. I guess Gary was a fantastic painter. So they used to repair cars and turn them, stuff like that. I can't hear.
Oh, if Liz, if you guys are talking, you're muted.
It was just a private conversation.
Yeah, I just want to say that, after all the years, um, Richard always talked about Kathleen and Laurel and how much he loved you guys and wanted to provide his houses to you. And, he always said how much he cared for you and loved you guys. So you were always on his mind.
And I say the same thing. I think everybody, Andy, Bob, and I know very, very well how much he always talked about you two girls and how much he just really cared for you guys, and so happy you guys played ball and everything. I think you guys went along with him really well, and he really appreciated that.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And I appreciate all you did, for Richard, and then, and then all the communication, after his passing with his final wishes. That was really important. So I just really want to thank you again.
Well, I'm sure happy you put this on. I tell you, this worked out really well, for everybody. Everybody's all different places and doing this. And I was able to see Laurel. I haven't seen Laurel in a long time, and I hadn't seen Dory and stuff. And I'd never seen Gary before, so it was very beneficial for me. And I hope everybody keeps texting everybody together, stuff like that. What's going on? So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Got the BAI crew back. All right. Well, I guess I'll let you guys return to your weekends. I'm going to go to the batting cages with my partner in honor of Richard this afternoon and my friends. So we're going to make a night of it. And I just wish you all the best, and stay in touch. And I thank you so much for coming. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
And Laurel.
and Laurel. And then,
Yeah, thanks for putting it together.
yeah, no problem. And we recorded. We're recording it because Brianna wasn't able to come. So, but I'll post the recording so she can watch. Oh, we got a kitty.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, I'm going to end the recording.